Hey, it's Rachel with Journey Back Quilts, and today we're going to journey back to the basics. We're going to be making 4 patch blocks, many at a time. Let's get started.
To make 4 patches several at a time, you're going to need 2 strips of each fabric. So I have 2 of my light and 2 of my dark, and these are measuring 2.5 inches from width of fabric, from selvage to selvage. So I am going to open these up, and I'm going to trim off that selvage. Just stacking all of them together. Now here comes the fun part. You're going to take a light and a dark, and we're going to sew those down at a 1/4 inch seam all the way down on each of these. Okay, let's go to the sewing machine and put those together. So just start with a little section at a time. Match up those raw edges. Get it started. We can always trim off the ends again if needed. Okay, so I just get it lined up a little bit, and then where my finger is where I have it lined up to, and then you can see it's not lined up here. So I'm just going to pause, keep my foot down, and adjust the layers so that they're lined up again, and put my finger back down to where it's lined up again, right here at the edge of my table. And then stop again. Line up all those raw edges again, and just keep doing that over and over and over. Remember not to stretch or pull on your fabric. Just let the feed dogs do the work for you. I'm very lightly holding it so that it's able to move through, but I'm just keeping my place right there. If you're just starting sewing, you don't want to go too slow with your sewing machine or too fast. You want to be kind of right there in the middle. So I have my speed dial up here all the way over to the highest setting, so I can just control it with my foot. If you need to, if your foot's not used to controlling the pedal speed, then you can lower your nozzle up here. I don't know if you can see that. You can control it right here to get it to go slower or faster. And I like to have it on the fast and then just control my speed with my foot. If you're still practicing though, kind of maneuver those around and see which one works best for you. Now my ends do not match. One is smaller than the other, shorter than the other. So that's okay. It's not going to matter when we get to putting these together. Just keep sewing your strips together all the way through. And I'm going to chain piece these, so you're just going to leave your needle down. Get your next set ready to go. Matching up those raw edges. Lift your foot and then just keep sewing. And then pause and adjust your layers as needed. Now that we're all done sewing those, I'm just going to clip apart this connecting thread, and we need to go to the ironing board now. All right, just like the first lesson when we made these one at a time, I'm going to iron these towards the darker fabric. So I have the light fabric on my ironing board, and I'm just going to slide it over with my hand, holding it in place while I let the iron do the work. And I'm just hitting that seam, pushing it over. And I'm just doing a little chunk at a time, making sure it's staying nice and straight. And then we'll slide it over and do the rest. Okay, and do that to the other side as well. Okay, now comes the fun part. So I'm going to lay one down on my mat. The other one we want to put on top of this one with the opposite colors. So I've got my dark color here, and I'm going to put my light color on top of it. And I'm just going to line up my seams in the center. So to do that, remember we're nesting our seam. So this bump right here kind of has a little bit of a ledge to it on both sides of our dark, is going to butt right up to each other in the middle here. Okay, and it just takes a little practice to feel that. And then once you have it in place, you'll be able to feel that it's nice and flat. So I'm going to do that all the way down. And I'm just going to do probably these first 12 to 18 inches or so. And then we can readjust everything and do the next side of everything. Because I have it all bunched up down here. I'm just going to smooth it out, making sure that's nice and flat. Okay. And then we are going to want to start with a clean edge. So I'm going to line up my ruler with the seam line of my block here, not the top and bottom, just that seam line right there in the middle. So just pick a line on your ruler and line it up with that seam line. And I'm going to trim off this edge so we have a nice clean edge to start with. Then I'm going to cut it at 2.5 inches, both of these together. And now our block is ready to go through the sewing machine. It's already nested. We just need to sew down at a 1/4 inch seam for each of those. So again, I'm going to line up 2.5 here, and then make sure one of my lines is going straight with my seam line. That's going to make sure everything's staying perpendicular. And that will help us get those perfect points in the center. Okay, and I'm just going to stack these on my design board here so I can carry it over to my sewing machine. And let's go sew these 4 down. Again, I'm sewing it so that this seam here is going this way so my foot doesn't run into it and flop it over. Just double checking those are nested. They look really good. Makes it so much easier and faster to get a bunch of 4 patches done at one time. And if you had cut all of your strip, you would have gotten about 16 of these 2.5 inch rows to make these 4 patches. Okay, let's go to the ironing board and iron those by spinning the seams. Okay, like we did in the last lesson, we're going to spin the seams, which is really fun to do. We're just going to push this one going up, this one going down. And sometimes you have to unstitch with your seam ripper a little stitch right there, but these ones are just popping right open, so that's perfect. And you can see there's this mini 4 patch right here in the center. So I'm going to use my iron to push that seam up, hit that little tiny 4 patch, and then push this one down. So you can see that the seams are spinning. It's like they're a little windmill going around. I will flip it over though and make sure that this pushed all the way over, because sometimes the fabric can fold just a tiny bit when you're ironing from the back, and then your block is going to look a little more like a rhombus instead of a square. So I'm going to make sure that that seam got pushed all the way over on all of these. And look at that perfect point right in the center. Isn't that awesome? So that's a fast way you can make all of your 4-patch blocks. All right, now we just need to double check that these are measuring the correct dimensions. So I'm going to line up 2 1/4 with that center line running all the way down and all the way across. That will ensure that we have everything centered and lined up, and it's looking really good. I think I have a little bit of extra on this side, so I'm just going to spin it around, line it back up. Yes, that looks great. Just a tiny hair right there. And there we go. We have our 4-patch blocks all ready to go. Now you can make a really cool quilt with these. You could put them together like this and make a really cool 4-patch block. And then just make another block of this and add it to make your entire quilt block. Great job!
Hey, thanks so much for joining me today in making all of these 4-patch blocks. I hope that you enjoyed this and you're going to go try it yourself. If you'd like more tips, tricks, and tutorials, I invite you to join us in our society, where you'll get even more videos to help you on your quilting journey. Next week, we're going to be making a 9-patch block. I'll see you then.